Come on, man, I already have this. Why does it keep popping this up? Remember the Callisto Protocol? I remember the Callisto Protocol. Let's remember it together. To be fair, since my last video, there have been quite a few developments on it. There have been multiple patches, the DLC season pass is done, there's now an entire spin-off game, and it's unclear if there will be a sequel, so this could be the end of the line for the main game. Considering all that happened with it, it's not a huge surprise things turned out this way. As a short refresher, the game is insanely visually detailed, but expensive, and visually, it didn't have a lot that stuck out as truly unique. It mainly seemed to draw from Dead Space, or Dead Space's cutting room floor, which is extremely awkward when a remake of that game is coming out a few weeks later. That one was authentic enough that it still has unfixed performance issues, just like the original. The story felt empty and ironically chopped up, and even as a non-lore expert, it was pretty clear the PUBG connection was severed late in development, being replaced with lots of nothing, or things left unexplained. There's actually a video by PUBG heads called the Callisto Conspiracy showing just how much is still in the game, so that wasn't helping its chances. Most importantly, the gameplay didn't gel together. It looked awkward to fight groups of enemies in it, so it was changed to Assassin's Creed Take a Number style of gameplay, and it ended up feeling like a weird monster brawler hybrid. If you turned up the difficulty, that meant less ammo for weapons and credits, while your enemy HP bars skyrocketed up, making you feel like a space lumberjack most of the game. Its problems were obvious and ran into its core, but there were some interesting threads left that could be better in a sequel or a spin-off game. But then came the final transmission, also the final chapter of the Callisto Protocol. And they mean that too. It takes place right after the final cutscene. This is something I haven't seen in quite a while. The true ending is DLC. And I don't mean the story continues with an expansion like Dragon Age, and I wouldn't even put it on the same tier as something like Fallout 3. That was made to address criticism, but that was not a planned extension, and it shows. No, we're closer to the Asura's Wrath slums. It wasn't something done or nearly done and cut out for later. It's a planned ending that may have been tweaked based on the game's performance. You might remember just how much this game was drawing from Dead Space 3, and it created conditions so similar, we're doing the Awakened DLC again. And I wanted to leave it at that, but running back through Awakened just to get some extra clips, the similarities that these two have make me feel insane. You know, it's a fun idea to have a Dead Space spiritual successor and have the protagonist named Jacob, one of the biblical Isaac's two sons. But if this spin-off game has an Esau, I haven't found him yet, and I'm sure there are some forces that wish Isaac took the traditional approach. Plus, Redacted is based off of Hades and not Binding of Isaac. Missed opportunity. Also, there won't be any kind of spoiler section for this since it's the last chapter of the Callisto Protocol. It's the end, so you should have played the game or watched the movie. Anyways, since we're already doing this, I figured I'd go over the DLC that came out in the meanwhile. You may notice a pattern, but there is a shakeup. What? The Outer Way Skin Collection. It's this skin. It's $5. Next, we have the Contagion Bundle, which is this skin. However, it also includes Contagion Mode, which is basically hardcore with permadeath. What's interesting is the Outer Way skin came with New Game Plus and Hardcore mode for free, which makes me wonder if someone wanted these paywalled off until they were told it was an extremely bad idea. It also throws in new kill and death animations for Jacob, which the next DLC, the Riot Bundle, includes as well. Of course, there's another new skin, and then Riot Mode, which is... wait. Holy shit. It's fun. I'm having fun.
Resuming search. Network signal lost. Have a united day.
This might be the best thing the game has to offer, to the point where it's kind of shocking just how well it works. See, where the main game was a resource-starved, linear horror experience, besides some exceptions that mainly felt dull, so fuck it, let's just make that the mode. It's very similar to something like COD Zombies, choosing upgrades, unlocking new weapons and items in a run, and holding out against multiple waves. Unlike the main game, you're attacked by groups way more often and kept under pressure. The reason this could even happen is due to the arcadey nature, you have way more ammo and supplies to work with. Plus there's actual strategy in deciding where to take fights, like some areas have traps but spawn monsters, others might have useful supplies you can go and buy. There are occasional side objectives with different rewards for achieving them, and a rampage mode giving you unlimited ammo, instant melee kills, and unlimited force power. So there is some decision making to be made in when you time and use these things. What's even funnier is that all those kill and death animations the other DLCs add, you're more likely to see in this mode. Because combat is so constant, you have a good chance of seeing something new in a way that feels natural. It's almost as if the combat team itself was frustrated at the pacing of the main game's fights. Since, like most survival horror games, it's built around conserving resources, but the game is also built around melee. On top of that, when you did have ammo, the game encouraged you to use it as a combo finisher. Just blasting an approaching enemy with a gun is fun, but you know it's a waste of resources compared to softening them up first with your police pool noodle. And I don't need to go into detail again on just how stingy the in-game economy was, but post-video they patched it to be better, but it's still rough. Because if they gave too much, you'd be ridiculously overpowered for the amount of enemies they have. But it turns out when you say, okay, tons of ammo, tons of enemies, moving hazards, strategic level design requiring moving between rooms, a frantic pace that leans into the brutality of the combat, and some more pushes for replayability, now, so much that didn't work before does. And don't get me wrong, core problems are still there, like how the camera works and how the game handles multiple enemies in general. But Riot Mode is a big improvement. It's just unfortunate that it doesn't have strong legs. There's only a single map, the side objectives you get are limited, and as the waves go on it doesn't scale very well or have good new surprises. It is fun, but not the kind of thing you want to replay over and over again. But when you do play this, something like Redacted existing makes a lot more sense. Okay, so that's it for the Riot bundle and the other paid DLC, which, I could have sworn these looked different before. I might be misremembering. I can't even say the word misremember today, so I must be wrong. Let's move on to the final transmission. Previously on the Callisto Protocol.
Jacob, there might be a way out after all.
Reactor 4 temporary status activated.
But I'm going to need your help.
What? Where the fuck am I?
It doesn't matter. Just get moving. My lab's up ahead. I'll explain there.
No time for questions. We're still in Black Iron Prison, and I've got a feeling that before the day is done, we're gonna Callisto the fuck out of it. We are starting with an action set piece, so there's no telling what hazards could be on the way. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Why can't I remember how I got here?
Dissociative amnesia. Your mind is protecting itself. Just hurry. And promise everything will become clear soon.
Another amnesia already. Oh well. Dr. Mahler wasn't lying, and she may have found a way out. You may remember her as the lady who explained the biophage in Subject Zero, but if you don't, you might not have dissociative amnesia, there just wasn't that much more to it. Well, now she's leading us through an escape plan, and we can find her audio logs telling us more about the biophage and everything else going on here. And yes, that is a moving audio log. Also after the video, they patched the game to make it so you can actually use those when walking around. It should have always been this way, but honestly, good on them for changing that. Also, you may have noticed my immediate slow-mo. I was actually wrong in my video, and this is perfect dodging, but you might understand why I didn't get it or why I couldn't repeat it. To perfect dodge in Callisto Protocol, you don't hit dodge right before their attack hits you like you would in most other games. Instead, you're supposed to hit dodge at the very beginning of their attack. So why would they make that different? I don't know. The DLC backtracks us through some of the main game's locations. Some we already backtracked once before in the third act, so this is our third time through them. They're just even more apocalyptic, infected, on fire, sometimes both. However, between all these, there are some new locations we haven't been to before, like the company's bot factory, isolation chambers, storage rooms. There's a bit more sprinkled around. The main events are seeing more of Dr. Mahler's experiments, and also Jacob's implant is really going haywire, which would make sense when he did the brain interface thing with what's-her-face. Miko or Karen? No, Danny. Right, because it made him hallucinate before, and he uploaded all the evidence to her brain, but he also saw her vision of the world. That was it. Okay, he's extra crazy now. Enemies can suddenly appear and disappear, where the level itself starts mocking him. It's leaning more into overt horror, which gets a little more surreal at times. And look, I know the room changing behind you is done to death in horror games, but even with the epilepsy attack, I will gladly take that over another bug QTE. At least it's something. They're clearly aiming to make things at least a little bit weirder than the main game. It's more that they didn't push it that far and probably didn't have the resources to do so. They added a few more puzzles to solve and a few new ways of doing it, but they aren't substantial additions, and if they are tied into the horror, it's being done in a very subtle way. And I do like when games have that, but not to the point where I have to wonder if it was intentional or not because it was so mundane. It's another drawback of the game's graphic levels being this high fidelity. It's a lot easier to remix than make brand new content because that is a massive pain in the pipeline. Even Dead Space 3 Awakened, which I've always thought has looked pretty awesome visually, benefited a ton from Dead Space 2 existing, and repurposed a lot to make it seem more fresh inside of 3. The pacing still felt horribly rushed, but at least the visuals were cool. It stayed thematic and still brought a few new things to the table. In fact, my new playthrough had this one part I didn't remember where all the textures in the world goes away, and one of Elton John's Unitology soldiers can't handle the ultimate truth. I don't actually think Callisto Protocol had a suicide, but it did have a... Nah, fuck this. It still has its moments, and seems aware that some points in the main campaign could have had more shakeups like this. But even if it did, it wouldn't be a huge game changer. Still, similar to Awakened, it does feel like a glimpse of a game that could have been, where they really leaned into the brain chip malfunctioning more, especially if they had side characters to do it with, since now the only person left is Zombie Scientist Lady. Not that you ever had a big RPG group of side characters in the first place, but it's just Jacob and this lady, and Jacob, well, if I had a gun to my head, I don't think I could describe his character. Is denial a character trait? He's not really cowardly. If anything, his combat animations make it look like he's seen some shit. Most FedEx branches aren't teaching the block a punch, then shiv a man's liver moveset anymore. Besides, we already had an entire game of him denying his guilt and then accepting it. So it's already used up all the visuals you could use to haunt him since it's over. He accepted it.
I do belong here.
Alright, so what can the final transmission do now? Taunt me with the two-headed man. He's gonna come back.
You belong here.
I know I belong here. Let the cycles continue. So as far as the story goes, it has big problems that lead to tire spinning from the very beginning, and a very limited pool of ideas to haunt Jacob with visually. Because as a character, he's kind of like a 2005 Dodge Neon, whose teenage owner yelled fuck inside of it so loud and so often that it lost half its resale value. I don't want to be alone with that car's thoughts. Get me out of here. I guess as a positive, it does have some music that's more off the range. I actually thought the music looping was breaking at first, but the music is made to be broken up at some points. It's appropriate for the mission, a little noisy, chaotic, and frantic, and as I'll talk about soon, it does tie into the story better than some of the visuals.
Hold on.
The rest except for the main theme does appear to be the regular Callisto Protocol soundtrack, but it was nice to have something different from the rest and more unusual in general more in the foreground. As for the main gameplay, it's mainly more of the same with three key differences. There can now, on occasion, be bigger crowds of zombies. Sure, some are just delusions, but hey, a lot of zombies on screen. Next, that you might have noticed already, is the hammer. It's a good example of missing the forest for trees because with all the other problems the game had, I didn't really notice how weird it was that for a game built around melee, there was only one melee weapon really, a big stick and the upgraded big stick. So now you have an Alcatraz gravity hammer with an AoE attack. It does have really visceral, satisfying animations, and the emphasis on crowd control makes sense if there's going to be more zombies. At least until your swings start phasing through the imaginary ones, but they can still hurt you. And then comes the final big feature, Mahler's experiment.
Jacob?
No. Escape. You will never escape.
Jacob! What's happening?
I'm fine. Fucked up my baton now.
That's right, robots combined with a biophage virus. Biobots.
Don't let it see you.
I mean, who cares? There's some bus stop scrawlings about this being Mahler's ultimate sin and how she wanted to beat the warden at finding Subject Zero and the secrets first. She wanted a lab environment and not Fortnite and is mad he was right. I think I have good reasons for not getting into this, so I'm going to talk about them as enemies. At first they are refreshing, some big feral monster that aggressively attacks you, but from the start, there are a few things that seem troubling about them. They hit hard, they're extremely aggressive and fast, they take a long time to kill, which is, I guess, expected for final enemy stuff. But it's also a good example of why it's really hard to work with high-level graphics. Their animations, like staggering, can be extremely jerky. Sure, it just looks awkward, but when you fight groups of them, it is the worst of the Callisto Protocol combat. They're all flailing around, they clip into the camera constantly, and they have this horribly bright Eye of Sauron beam that keeps you blind half the time. Not being able to see is already a big problem, but especially when they have an AoE attack that one could be charging up behind you. Or one is charging it, you go to interrupt it, and another bot attacks you. Not to mention, you now have the hammer, which swings way slower, leaving you more open to attacks on the fastest enemy in the game. What's most scuffed about this is the answer isn't usually, oh, time your attacks better, or do this strategy. They can activate their AoE in the middle of your regular swings, and before you can react, it's already over. Guns can interrupt but don't damage much, so the best solution is to spam heavy attack over and over again. It hits in an arc, it interrupts their light bright, and it keeps them away and from clipping into your camera. Sometimes. It is way better than the regular method though, and it becomes clear these guys aren't going away. This is the new enemy. You had a few zombie rooms, but really, the hammer is a lore reason for you to be able to damage the robots, which both looks and feels so awful that it felt like something was clearly wrong. I'm thankfully not the gamer god, but there is a level of playing something that feels bad enough where something is, like, not right. I can't prove this happened, but I have a deep suspicion. Do you remember those skin packs? They used to look like this, which made me wonder, what's that about? Now look, stuff is cut from games all the time, but even the first time around, I noticed the mysterious missing weapon slot. Well, beyond some skin pack images having this extra weapon that then vanished, some Final Transmission patch notes were not updated. They mention an energy pulse rifle for long-range combat. So either these things were intended to be extremely annoying guerrillas, or you were supposed to soften them up at range first. An energy weapon does sound like something that would be more effective on a robot, even if it is half meat moss. It could be it was cut earlier, and I'm not making demands for it here, but otherwise, my brain cannot accept these things are intended to play this way, even if they are part biophage, which Muller reveals is incredibly intelligent.
Rather, a sentient intelligence that has existed for perhaps longer than our universe itself. Quite literally, the ultimate survivor.
Nothing more is said about that, but we've almost escaped. Who's the final boss? No, I'm kidding, it's Dr. Muller, who has become creatured and also thinks she belongs here. And if you can believe it, it is the two-headed man once again! Except it can teleport, fire chain-staggering projectiles, keep you stunned constantly, has an extremely scary instant-kill AoE attack, and on maximum security, takes about 4,000 hits to bring down. It's the annoyance of the biobots on steroids. And when you finally win, and Jacob can make his escape, holy shit. It was all a dream. Muller was using her body to upload even more evidence to Danny's core thing. Jacob was a horrible torso husk the entire time, but this doesn't last long because rocks fall and everyone dies. This is what happens. So all the computers saying missing data could be because your information was being uploaded. The weird messages and ghost zombies is because dream, or maybe a bug. I would assume the logs are meant to be real, but would the bio-robots then also be? It's all a dream, so you could write it all off as nonsense. But if she was uploading her data to his brain for transmission, I would assume the biobots are real. So I guess they could have appeared in Riot Mode to shake things up, but that could also be awful. It's also shockingly, unbelievably pointless, and using Awakened as the template. This makes no sense but don't ask questions opening. An ultimately doomed escape attempt. Side antagonist creature transformation that might also be a dream. Actually, all the hallucination enemies in general. But the orange interlaced filter was a callback to the Ishimura's computer screens in Dead Space 1, you know, when the marker evil was affecting you. Now Jacob just has bad firmware. Both are an immediate continuity of the last game's finale, though Dead Space 3 treats it better as actual extra chapters, and not the scroll down to start the final level approach. Both are dark endings, but due to the ambiguity, they could be written off as hallucinations if the series called for it. except Callisto Protocol might make it even more direct. Let's say you like the ending, you want it to be all fucked up, but they could still make it silly. There are no credits, it just holds in the studio logo, which could be the gaming equivalent of Alan's Smithy. An escape only opens the menu, there's no skip credits option. If you hold on this for nearly 5 minutes, it'll get glitchy, get weirder, and then you finally get it, the ultimate candy corn.
Hey, where'd everybody go? Mahler! Louise! I'm not dead yet. I'm alive. I mean, Jacob's dead, but I'm still alive. This is Josh. Can somebody please Whoa! What the fuck happened to my legs? What the fuck happened to my legs? Can somebody get me out of here? And bring me my goddamn legs!
You should try Redacted instead. Have I ever played Hard Reset? A very topical question considering the robot hell from today. I did play it and I remember liking it, but I know it also got like an extended version or some sort of remix where you went out into the desert. That I have not played yet. I'll have to see about that one. Do I regret missing out on an Eternal Crusade video before the game died? Honestly, not really. The game never ran well when I had it, and whenever I looked it was in cash shop hell. There are still a lot of other Warhammer games I'd like to look at, but that's not one I have huge regrets over missing. The path the game took to where it ended up is probably more interesting than the game itself. I don't think I'm the best person for that kind of thing. Will there be a Thief 4 video? Well, the good and bad news is it does partially exist. I did a good amount of it during a weird time earlier in the year, but it's still in a weird spot relative to the Dishonored games, so I'm still not sure how to approach that. Thoughts on the new Vampire game releasing? I made a Callisto Protocol DLC video instead. But don't worry, Halloween is soon.